Welcome to Supermax Z, where I'm going to making an update to my original Ben 10 timeline theory, which I will talk about later in the video. So let's get started on the new version. Let's start. The first Ben 10K that we saw was Ben's future, but when future Gwen went back to the past, the timeline split into two. Yeah, it split into two timelines now. Keep up. I hope you can be able to keep up with what I'm going to say. Then Ben 10,000's timeline and Ultimate Ben 10K's timeline are the two timelines that came out of there. So we have the original timeline, the Ben 10,000 timeline, and the Ultimate Ben 10K timeline that split from it. So the Ben 10,000 timeline goes like the first two seasons, and when Ben was taken, he wasn't taken in this timeline, and Grandpa Max never got a cake for his birthday then the rest of season 3 and 4 happened, but maybe a version of them, and a version of UAF and OV happened also. Now the Ultimate Ben timeline is where season 3 and 4 end. UAF we saw until the events of Ben 10,000 returns. That's when the timeline will split again. But I know what you're going to say. Why would I say that the timeline splits there, yet Ultimate Ben says he remembers this entire thing in this scene?
And was trapped motionless for nearly a year. A world where you didn't have...
It's true, he would have known that Professor Paradox's plan would have not destroyed the hands of Armageddon, but bring Eon to that timeline. So Ultimate Ben's timeline splits to two again, becoming Ultimate Ben's timeline, and then Ben 10K's timeline. Ultimate Ben's timeline goes as it would have gone naturally without Eon appearing there. So when Ben 10K went to the time of Omniverse, it split the timeline again. I know it might be confusing with all the split timelines, but it will make sense once I explain it. The reason it split timelines is because if this Ben 10K never saw the Chronosapien time bombers when he was young, so that's why that Ben 10K punched that field, because he didn't know it would accelerate the time bomb instead of stopping it. That's why he punched it. He literally thought he could stop it and not make it go faster, because he never experienced those events when he was young. Other timeline caused by Ben 10K coming, I will call the Prime timeline, and that's where the rest of Omniverse happens. Our main Ben story has happened in multiple timelines. Let's start. The first two seasons of the original series of Ben 10 take place in the Ben 10,000 timeline. Season 3 and 4 and Alien Force Season 1 to 3 and Ultimate Alien Season 1 to 2 and Season 3 Episode 1 to 6 happen in the Ultimate Ben 10K timeline. Then the UA Season 3 Episode 7 to the end of UA and some parts of Omniverse before Ben 10K comes are part of the Ben 10K timeline, and the rest of Omniverse is in the Prime timeline. So my first Ben 10 theory is correct, but to another timeline separate from the one I just mentioned and talked about. Note that the goodbye and good riddance and race against time used in that video are not meant to be the same as in the show or the movie, but versions of them. But even if you think it is the main version of those events, it doesn't change anything of the theory. This is where the video would have ended if it was not for this scene in Ben 10K Returns.
That wasn't me, Tennyson, and soon it won't have been you.
Eon mean that it was not him. This means that there are two versions of Eon. I think I found a way to explain it, and it's confusing, but I think it may be easy understandable after a long time. So here's my explanation. The alien Eon, more known as the Cronian Eon, went to many timelines. I think he fought our Ben when he was 11 years old, most likely after the events of Ben again for the past one. In the fight, this Eon never used the Hands of Armageddon. After losing, he went to another timeline, and the events of Race Against Time happened many times, and the one we saw in the movie was the last one, and that would be the last appearance of this alien Eon, ending with this Eon being defeated, and is the end of Race Against Time's Eon, like I said. So then Eon is so the Eon that we saw in the show is another version of Eon who is a Ben. This one went to many timelines, but then was defeated by a Ben in a version of Race Against Time, with this version as the villain. After that, unlike the other Eon, he went to the Ultimate Ben timeline to fight Ultimate Ben 10K. That's why he remembered fighting the other version of Eon when he was 11. So that's why that's when Ben 10K said he fought him before. That's also when he said that wasn't me. Eon went to the past, making the timeline split, like I said. And this Eon was the one fought in the show for the rest of its run. So that's my explanation. The one more thing I am going to talk about is the Hands of Armageddon. The reason they are made of different materials in the episode Ben 10,000 Returns is most likely that every timeline group has its own version of the Hands of Armageddon being made of different materials. That means in one group it's made of steel and in another it's made of copper, for example. Group meaning timeline splitting on from one main one. Note, if even the main ones have copies of it. The main one for my timeline is the Ben 10K or Ben 10,000 from the original series. But there are other versions of this timeline in other timeline groups, explaining why my original theory is still correct. One thing I also want to add here is that the Ben in the episode Gwen 10, I also believe that he was returned to his time normally, and those events were removed from the timeline and it was reset, and it's now how it was supposed to be. But even if you don't think so, it doesn't not change the theory, anything about the theory. Now for the video games. Ben 10 Protector of Earth, Ben 10 Alien Force the game, Ben 10 Alien Force Vilgax Attacks, and Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Cosmic Destruction are all in the same timeline and timeline group. For the comics, some are canon to this timeline and the others have their own timeline groups and timelines. So this is my Ben 10 timeline theory. Thanks for watching my video. Like, share and subscribe, and come again to watch another video from Super Max Z. This is Super Max Z heading out.